Nick Hopton, former British ambassador to Iran, joins me now. Welcome to you, Mr. Hopton. What's going on the ground in Tehran right now?
Good afternoon. I think there's a great deal of concern and panic, and following the Israeli government's warnings to evacuate Tehran, not least because the President of the United States seems to have amplified that. I know from people I'm talking to in Tehran that many are leaving, but many are staying. And there is a sense that this conflict is gradually escalating out of control, that civilians are increasingly at risk, and that this conflict has some way to run before it's resolved.
Yeah, and as you say, casualties are only going to go up with any more bomb strikes or missile strikes from Israel. The other difficulty for civilians is they don't have bomb shelters or alerts in Iran in the way they do in Israel, do they?
Well, exactly, and Iran is a very different kind of country to Israel. Obviously, the population is roughly 20 times larger. It is a much bigger geographical area. Tehran itself is a city of somewhere between 10 and 14 million, depends on how you count it. The population of Israel obviously is relatively small. Israel at the same time has a much more sophisticated air power, certainly, than Iran has been able to show. But the population live often in quite densely populated areas, and it's not surprising to me that when Israeli bombs or missiles have hit buildings, they have killed a lot of civilians.
I mean, Donald Trump has threatened, as you know, to come down hard, so hard on Iran if US interests in the region are targeted. Is the regime listening?
I would be surprised if Iran directly targets the United States. At this stage, my sense is that they will be seeking to return to the negotiating table, whatever they say in public. I think there are Gulf neighbours, Gulf states, who are seeking to build that back channel with the United States, so that the negotiations that were scheduled to take place last Sunday and cancelled because of the Israeli bombing on Thursday night and the conflict that escalated following that, so that those negotiations can be rejoined at an early stage. And there are some signs, I think, some indications that the US may be willing to sit down, either directly or indirectly, at some point this week, to try and forge a deal, although obviously they would perhaps be more demanding on the outcome of that deal than they would have been had it taken place on Sunday.
Right. Well, that's very interesting, because there are questions about how far the regime would be prepared to go or to do a deal with the United States over limiting the amount of uranium enrichment.
Yes, the Iranian position to date has been that they are prepared to negotiate on their capabilities to develop a nuclear weapon, which all the indications, including from the United States intelligence side, suggest was still some way off when Prime Minister Netanyahu launched his offensive on Thursday night. And the Iranians have held off in the past, certainly, from developing and rushing to a bomb, because I think they realised that that would provoke a very strong military reaction. And I think the negotiation probably at this stage will have shifted. Steve Witkoff and Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister, were negotiating essentially around whether Iran would be willing to completely give up its ability to enrich uranium, whether for civilian or military purposes. And the Iranians have said that while they might be willing to look at verification of their ability to go beyond a certain level, which might threaten a nuclear weapon in due course, they weren't willing to give up their civilian capability. I think the tables have shifted, and it's likely that a negotiation would be more difficult for Iran now.
I mean, if the regime were to fall, how would you envisage the future of Iran, bearing in mind it's never had democracy?
I think, as I think was it Oscar Wilde said, reports of my death may be premature. The regime may change dramatically if the supreme leader were, for instance, to be assassinated. That would obviously force some sort of regime change. I think my sense is that those who think that that would lead to a more Western-leaning, Israeli-friendly regime, at least in the short term, might be being slightly over-optimistic, because the likelihood is that actually you would have a doubling down of the military element within the regime, and maybe a more hardline approach
Yes.
in the short term. But this conflict has a long way to run, and one can only hope that there will be a move towards de-escalation and negotiation.
Indeed. Nick Hopton, former British ambassador to Iran, thank you very much for talking to us. Coming up, the latest on a vote that could be the biggest.
المنطقة ضرب لجوا هذا هاي كمان اوه كلهم هذول واحد على عند